Greetings duelists and welcome to another video. So, Justice Hunters is about to debut in less than 24 hours. This set will be TCG legal, and there's still a few more things I want to talk about when it comes to Dracotail. I will cover the other decks very soon. There are other decks and other experiments that I want to do with this format, but since I've been on a Dracotail train lately, and a lot of people have been giving me positive messages and feedback on my videos involving this deck. I kind of want to cover almost everything I can with this deck before I move on to other projects. So, what you see here on the screen is my current deck list of the Dracotail deck. These cards that are here on the bottom is not my actual side deck. These are side deck options that I actually thought about and tested throughout the few testing duels that I've been doing. And I kind of want to talk about how I reached the conclusion of the build that I have currently on hand. So, before we arrived to this iteration, this is how this is how the deck looked like at the beginning. When it comes to Dracotail, there are a lot of different variants. I'm showing you a lot of different versions on the screen, and I already know for a fact I didn't even cover half of them. The most popular one, and the one that I think a lot of people will gravitate towards, is the branded version. I think this version has a lot of legs. Branded Fusion is just a very absurd card. You don't care about fusion locking with this deck. There are already cards in the archetype that already fusion lock you. So, yeah, Branded is a really good option. Bestial Control or Bestial alongside Branded is another good one. This is really good because it actually contests against the Fiendsmith decks or the Fiendsmith variants, while also giving you a lot of card advantage. These being Dragon type monsters also is really good for Dragon type synergies with other archetypes. It can also help make the Secretarium Dragon as well. There are some fusion plays or some bestial plays that just enable you to do banish cards, and Branded Regained is good for that. Branded Regained is also really good against Malice. We'll talk about Malice in a little bit. But yeah, Bestial Control is another thing I thought about when it comes to building this deck. Invoked. I think that was my first iteration of the deck. Or it was my second. My second iteration of the deck was with Magical Meltdown. Magical Meltdown is just a really powerful card. And just being able to siphon your fusion summons and have your fusion effects and chain links be unresponsive is really big. This is the difference against winning and losing a couple of games against a lot of decks. Just imagine 5 mana not being able to be negated and her becoming a super poly against your opponent when you're trying to chain fusions and summon Arthalion and stuff like that. There's also the Magistus build, and no, I'm not talking about the OCG version. We don't have Spoon and we don't have the Link 2 monster. We're talking about basically Crowley to make Zoroa. Also using Crowley as Alistair to make other fusions like Kaliga, for example. Yeah, just making Kaliga, for example, a tier name, shuffling back Alistair, or Alistair paired with Mululu, amongst other things, is really strong. That card is just as strong as Winda. More branded stuff. I even thought about Dogmatica at some point. But locking yourself out of the extra deck is a really big deal, even if it's for the rest of the turn. Dragon Mates, shoutouts to Boji-sama. He has been talking about this deck for a while now. He's trying to pill me on this deck. He actually played it against his teammates this past weekend, and he pretty much beat all the meta decks with this version of the deck. I think Lady Dracotail, Lady Dragon Maid, is a really strong monster, and then the new chamber is also a really good monster. You can also make like the other Dragon Maid fusion. I forgot what her name is. I think it's called Philia something. Let's see if I can find it. This one, Philia Regis. Yeah, that deck can also make this card. So, and this card is kind of pretty. This card is pretty cool. It's very much like a compulse. So, yeah, that is another like another card that you can play in this version. I thought about playing more tier cards like Tearlament Grief just to like tutor a Tearlament name and be able to fusion summon on the spot using the tier monster. The tier monster can also use the tier monsters can also use monsters from the hand, so you can make the Dracotail fusions with the tier elements as long as you shuffle back like a monster in your hand. But you have to no, actually you can't, because you have to use Dracotails for the Dracotail monsters. So ignore everything I just said about tier elements. But yeah, just using tier elements to just fuse like with Tearlament's Grief as like a 1.5 fusion spell is pretty cool. But at the end of the day, I just scrapped it. I just told myself that Hafnis and Sharon are enough. I didn't want to play Merly because Merly is just another normal summon. We already have enough normal summons with Cartesia and Lucius. So that's how I arrived to that conclusion. The Lunalight monsters are actually good fusion cards. This can grab Polymerization. This allows you to fusion summon from the graveyard for Lunalights. Kalator Chick can grab you back Polymerization, and she has like an anti-battle phase effect as well. So it's not a real stretch to think about Lunalight, because Lunalight is a fusion-based archetype. King of the Swamp is the more common one. This can be paired alongside Dark Magician. Then the Primite engine. This engine did kick off in the OCG for a little bit, and I wouldn't be surprised if people actually start testing that here in the TCG as well. Just making Dragoon with like one Primite card is also pretty strong. Like, imagine Ether Barrel into like the Lordy Load, like into the Primite fusion, and you just try to enable access that way. And then you just use the Lordy Load to just summon Dark Magician, and all of a sudden you have a one-card engine that gets you to Dragoon. Which is pretty strong. I'm not gonna lie. Like, Dragoon to this day is still a powerhouse against a lot of decks. Then there's the Archmage engine. I also been talked about this by Boji-sama. He was telling me how to use Medius and just Patron, just like a mini engine, and use the Patron to add Awakening. And the main monster that you make is going to be the Deactorus. So this isn't a bad idea. Also, Archmages do have a generic fusion spell that can fuse into anything as long as you use Archmages. So, like, you can even make your Dracotail fusions with this. This card is pretty cool. This card is basically Magical Meltdown mixed with Welcome Labyrinth. Like, a lingering effect that just makes your fusion monsters unresponsive. It's actually a real game changer. Also, the graveyard effect to just bounce while your monsters and pop a card, it also can come up. So I wouldn't sleep on this engine. I know Archmages have not done anything in any region as of yet, but there could be a world for experimentation. Now, This is the first ever build that I made of the deck. I thought about playing a lot of light, like a lot of spellcasters or light monsters. I want to talk about Ghost Ogre real quick. I think this card is going to be really good post Justice Hunters. This card is really good against Yummy. This card is actually really good against Vanquish Soul. Just popping the rock or popping the field spell, like it could come up. Like against the Dracotail mirror match, this card can also be good. Yeah, I wouldn't sleep on this card. Especially if you see people like still on Primate Engine and other stuff like that. This is also good against the rogue decks. Like imagine just popping a True Light against Blue Eyes. Like really good blowout card. So I ultimately scrapped this version. Like I just wasn't liking hand traps, and we'll talk more about hand traps like in another video. Second build, this is another hand trap heavy build. Again, I actually paired Alistair and Medical Meltdown because I wanted something that gives the deck pushing power, besides being a mid-range strategy that just relied on your hand traps. Ultimately, I just thought this was a little bit too gimmicky. I thought the Tearlament engine with Pearl Rhino was just a little slightly better than Meltdown with Alistair. Alistair is a normal summon, and again, the deck has already enough normal summons as is. So I pretty much just scrapped this idea altogether. The Alistair fusions being like Mechaba, like the Invoked Magistus, but that we still don't have in the TCG. Heck, even the Agoides to just pop and like gain more attack is like they were all really solid options. This was before Secretarian Dragon got revealed as a card. Otherwise, you'd see that instead of Mysterion. Yeah. Not much to say here. And this is another version of the deck. This is 60 cards with grass. The main idea and theology with this is I wanted to play more Shadow monsters. I want to see what happens if I like played an absurd number of Shadows in my deck. And at first, I really liked the idea. I actually thought this was solid. If you've been on this channel, you know that I have been playing 60 card decks for a while. I don't care what anybody says. Statistics are a lie in this game. Like, I've drawn this grass more times than people think. I've actually, like, seen my side cards in 60 enough times, so I'm not afraid of playing 60 cards. But yeah, we now arrived at the conclusion of this deck version. Okay, so let's talk about the side deck. So when it comes to Justice Hunters, you have to respect the older decks as well as the new decks. Like Malice, Mitsurugi, Raizio are not going to go away until there's a ban list that addresses them. You're also going to see Protoss Lock around some places. You're also going to see like other stuff. But Justice Hunters has new contenders as well. Dracotail is no slouch into this new meta game, as well as Yummy and K9. Well, K9 variants, rather. So, Lancia, I think you should still play. Droll and Lockbird is a card you should still play. I think Droll is really good in this deck because you can just recover it back with Arthalion, which is something you couldn't do in other decks in the past. So this card is really strong against Raizio Mitsurugi because if you get... The problem with Raizio Mitsurugi is after you draw them, you actually have to lock down the game. Because if you cannot lock down the game, they will bounce back and they will break your board. Then they'll pretty much like annihilate you. So just having a way to recover back Droll and just keep drawing them turn after turn is actually really strong. Okay, Kritika. So the main reason I want to talk about this card is because of Vanquish Soul K9. This card historically has been good against Vanquish Soul in the past. I actually do think that we're about to enter a metagame where you need more board breaker type cards than hand traps, and Kurikara is just a really good one. Against Ryziel, this card is also pretty strong. Just tributing a detonator and just taking it in the end phase does come up. Shadow monsters. I've had people in my comment section talking about these other Shadow cards. I actually do cite them, and I actually do think they're actually pretty good. Net Shadow Genius can just shut down stuff like Detonator. It can also shut down like unaffected monsters because this affects the player. So cards like the Luna Light Liger Dancer and like the Super Quantum XYZ are cards that can be shut down by Genius. So something to keep in mind. I actually do think Nibiru is going to be a very sleeper card. A lot of people don't like Nibiru, but the thing about Nibiru is players that are caught off guard and don't play around Nibiru will lose to Nibiru. Like, it's just a given fact. I was playing yesterday at my locals against like a fellow player, Charles Diego, and he was playing the Vanquish Soul K9 deck, and I saw him doing very strange lines and sequences, and I pretty much asked him, "Hey Diego, why are you doing this play instead of this other play? Or like, why are you not summoning Mad Love before summoning like Jiaolong from the deck and stuff like that?" And his answer was, I have to respect Nibiru no matter what. Like, the moment you stop respecting it, you just lose the game, because Vanquish Soul is one of those decks that even though it has resource economy and card economy to make up for the Nibiru, it is pretty much a free turn of no monster interactions. And that is one turn that you don't want to give your opponent. Also, Vanquish Soul can summon enough times to be Nibiru'd on your own turn. That is something I actually learned, like, I can play against that deck. Alright, let's talk about more anti-Vanquish Soul cards. Performapal 5 Rainbow Magician. This card is a very sleeper card. Shout outs to Nelson Cartusia, I think that's his name. He is another YouTuber. And he talked about this card. This card is really, really good against Vanquish Soul. Like, the Vanquish Soul deck cannot afford to play less than 30 monsters. That deck will probably play only Stake Your Soul and like one or two other staple cards, like in their main deck. Which means they won't have enough cards to set outside of like something like Snow Devil, for example. And that plays into Performapal 5 Rainbow Magician. And also, your opponent's setting cards to just play around it is something you can play around as yourself, because you have Urgula to pop, you have Shadow Dragon to pop, you have like the Pearl Rhino if you use a tier monster. Like, yeah, you have like enough ways to get rid of your opponent's cards that they're setting. And again, Vanquish Soul is one of those decks that just won't set a lot of cards. That making 5 Rainbow Magician really strong. Inspector Border. This is a weird one. I also want to talk about Majesty Fiend. So again, this goes back to the Performapal. Like, Vanquish Soul doesn't play a lot of monsters, and most of their plays are not going to be from the extra deck unless K9s are involved. So Inspector Border is a card that just shuts down that deck. And you don't care about the Inspector Border lock yourself if you can get to fusion monsters. Like, just having Inspector Border backed up, like, for example, with a Dracotail Horn and a Flame, and then just using, like, this is just a tempo-based card. Like, the more turns you have Inspector Border, the stronger your turns will become later in other duels. And there's a world where you can just you just summon Inspector Border, you summon Arthalion, and you just play Arthalion Beatdown against your vanquishable opponent. They don't have enough side cards or main deck cards to get rid of this. Like, I can tell you that for sure. Majesty Fiend, same thing. I'll talk about the Fiendsmith engine alongside it. Fiendsmiths is something you can also play in Draco Tail. People often forget Fiendsmith is a fusion deck, even though it has a bunch of Blink monsters. So just making fusions with your like Fiendsmith type cards, enabling access to like Duke of Demise or stuff like that, is also pretty strong. And just the fact of Track being able to grab you Majesty Fiend just to shut down your vanquishable opponent is something that could come up. This could also beat a lot of decks. Also, this is also really good with Fiendish Rhino Warrior. So Arthalion can just grab any monster from any graveyard. So there is a world where you just fuse away the Rhino Warrior. Rhino Warrior dumps the Majesty Fiend. You summon for Arthalion. Arthalion grabs back Majesty Fiend. And then you just summon the Majesty Fiend. Also, you can do that with Grandwin Grandwin can also send Majesty Fiend. And you can just fuse away for Arthalion. And Arthalion grab back the Majesty Fiend. Which is another really cool thing about Blazing Cartesia. You can also do that play with Chaos Hunter. I'm bringing up Chaos Hunter because you have to respect Malice. Malice is still a really good deck this format. Like just the other day, there was like a $200 tournament, like Post Justice Hunters, and it was won by Malice. That deck is not going anywhere anytime soon. Elchadol Anoitilis, this card was so close to be like a staple in my extra deck. You don't even know. Like, this card is really good, except for one detail. So, if you read this card, for those who don't know what this card is, neither player can special summon monsters from the hand or graveyard using spell or trap effects. If this goes into the graveyard, the same thing as all the Shadow monsters. The reason I'm bringing up this card is because of Vanquish Soul Snow Devil and because of Mitsurugi. The problem is, this only stops hand or graveyard. This doesn't stop summoning from the deck. Which means, my Mitsurugi opponent can still Mitsurugi Ritual from your main deck. Under this card. If this card just stopped monsters being summoned by spell and traps, like in general, from anywhere, this card would have been a staple. This card probably would have been really solid end board against Mitsurugi type decks. Like, this card shuts down Mitsurugi Prayers as well, which is kind of really strong. But ultimately, it did not make the cut. And you're probably asking how you summon this. 5 mana is a water. So just 5 mana and a Shadow gets you there. Which is pretty strong. Okay, so we need to talk about side decks against our deck. Same way we have a lot of side deck tools for Draco Tail. There are some cards that just are really strong against Draco Tail, and some of them might actually see play. One of them is Spell Canceller, and I'll talk about Retaliating Sea as well. Like, these two cards, really strong against Draco Tail. Dimensional Fissure, another really strong anti-Draco Tail card. And in case you're wondering why am I bringing up Dimensional Fissure, not every deck can play this. Malice can play this, and Malice is still in the format. Also, I've seen people that play like the Crystron K9 deck. They make their end board and then they just activate this as a floodgate. Kind of cringe, I know, but it is something that they can do. Speaking of Crystron, this card right here. Let's talk about this card for a minute. This is a sleeper card that can be played both in Yummy and in Crestron. And I don't know about people like in TCG all around, but I can already say this. People at my locals are already thinking about this card. So keep an eye out. This card actually could be a game ender against you if you are not prepared for it. Trapaholic. I'm bringing that up because of DDDG, Dimensional Barrier, Dominance Impulse. Like, all these cards are really strong against Dracotail, and the number one culprit is Malice. Malice can play all these cards. The Vanquish Soul K9 deck can play Dimensional Barrier. Not much DDG and Impulse, so it's something to keep in mind. Also, I've seen Vanquish Soul K9 decks play Dimension Shifter. Dimension Shifter is another card to consider here in like the options. Anti-Spell Fragrance, really strong card. We already know what this card does. Another Floodgate. Super Poly. I talked about how good this card is this format. This card shuts down a lot of decks. Like, I can just go on and on and on about this card. This card can be also used against us. And the main culprit will be the Secretarian Drac. This card is also really good against Malice. I didn't bring that up the first time I talked about Super Poly. But yeah, it's just another tool. Yeah, be on a lookout for all of these. So, right here at the bottom, I'm talking about a few decks. Yummy, Crestron K9, Gem Knight. There is a Gem Knight K9 deck running around that can make Paradise Smasher really easily. So be careful with that deck. That deck does exist. It's not a myth. Orchest Mitsurugi or Orchest variants is also really good. Ryziel is still going to be in the format. Mitsurugi is still going to be in the format. Malice is not going anywhere, like, until like they do something to it. Like, yeah, this is looking like a very diverse meta game, just to say the least. So a lot of people are not gonna like this format until we get our next ban list, but you know, we just have to make do with what we got. I, for one, look forward to Justice Hunter's format. Alright, before we end the video, a lot of people in my comment section, or at least enough people in my comment section, have been liking my replays. So I'm going to try to squeeze in 1 to 2 replays every video. So feel free to watch this one. These are not long duels, these are kind of short. That's why I kind of want to squeeze them in. So this is against Yummy, and I think they won the die rule. Yeah, so they normal summon the Lollipo, and if you look at our hand, we have Super Poly, 5 mana, Lucius, and Squamata, like as our materials. If we look at the game state right now, we're about to end this Yummy player's turn. How are we doing that? Alright, so before I show this, I think I have a replay here. I kind of want to show you like the main function of Dracotail and how you are supposed to play Dracotail. Like, I think Dracotail players are already familiar with like this by now, but like this is pretty much the things that you are doing in this deck. Like, look at all these interactions that you have. So like, Dracotail is it's very simple to understand, but when you have like 5 mana in the mix, you're looking at turn 0 plays that are very similar to this. Let's go back to the replay. So we have 5 mana. This 5 mana is going to trigger, and 5 mana is going to fuse away Lucius and Squamata, and we're going to summon Gulamel. It is no longer Grammel now. So we're going to chainlink 1 Squamata and chainlink 2 Lucius. The reason you have to make this chainlink specifically like this is because if you don't, the Gulamel can miss timing. So Gulamel has to respond to a Dracotail, and if you chain Gulamel to your Dracotail, you miss the window for Squamata. So you have to Squamata chaining 1, and then chaining 2 the Lucias. That way, you open the game state to your opponent. My opponent does not have any cards. Actually, they did. Actually, no, they don't, because you cannot attack Imperm. They do not have any cards to stop all of the cards that we're doing. So this opens Gulamel to pop the Lollipop. And Yummy is one of those decks where if you lose your normal summon, like you just like there's not enough cards to get you back into the game unless you have like Hornet Drones or Obedience Schooled. Now, my opponent is trying to Dominance Purge. Dominance Purge does not negate any of these cards. We're not adding cards to our hand. So we kind of like, I tried to explain that to my opponent. He just scoops. He thought he was Songs of the Dominators for a second. So that already tells you he is on the Dominator build. Which is weird after seeing all those hand traps, right? So now they go first. And they did open the Obedience School this time. And they did also open Hornet Drones. I'm surprised that they did not activate Hornet Drones. I would have Hornet Drones right before resolving the Obedience School. That is just another extra monster. You are playing into Nibiru, but at least your Hornet Drones is still live. Because now you're locked into beasts because of Obedience School. So now this Hornet Drone doesn't do anything. That's a little tidbit if you're playing Yummy. Besides that, he's doing everything right with the deck. He's adding Cupsy, he's adding Cookie. He's just going to dump the Hornet Drones because he can no longer use it. This brings back those. That summons the Starham. He discarded Talents, which I don't know how I feel about that. I would have discarded one Yummy name. Like, imagine if like we break the board and you have just all those Yummy names and I don't know, we make Winda or something, right? So let's look at the interactions that we have. We have Pearl Rhino is going to resolve. Well, it's not going to resolve because they are going to purge that. And now they're going to Snatchy. Snatchy is going to make the Herald of the Arclight. This card is really strong against Dracotail. If we can bait this card out of the turn, we are fine with the rest of our cards. But until this card goes away, we cannot do anything about it. That's where the Thrust comes in. The Thrust is just going to enable Talents, and Talents is going to enable that. Another play would have been Chateau Fusion to summon Apkalone and use the Apkalone to negate the Arclight. That is another option that we did have. But the reason I tried not to go Apkalone is because even though we knew about the Yummy Surprise, there is a world where he can just hand trap like our Apkalone or just stop it from other means. So the Herald is now gone. That's going to resolve for Dracotail, and we have a bunch of effects. And you're going to see that my opponent is going to try to interrupt our chain link. And I try to tell my opponent 3 to 4 times, hey, the chain has not fully resolved. Mululu and Urgula have passive effects because they're dragons. The dragon Dracotail monsters being used as material are really strong. So my opponent is trying to like dodge, and the dodging does happen. If you've seen my past replays against Yummy, I tried to tell my opponent, hey, you know, the chain hasn't resolved, Molulu is still resolving, Urgula is still resolving, and we just win the duel because our opponent knows that it's just way more card advantage than what he wanted to do. Like this Lollipop Yummy and this Yummy Snatchy don't matter anymore because like we negated the Snatchy. We're popping the Surprise, which he didn't flip because probably he just wasn't knowledgeable with the interaction involving Urgula. And we just have 2 Dracotail traps, and we have Ketu Dracotail for next turn. And we have Maluda for next turn as well as so there's whatever you're sending with Squamata. I mean, yeah. So that's the end of that duel. Very short, right? Now, another one. This is against Vanquish Soul K9. So far, I think all the replays I've showed against this deck, I've only won one game, or I think I've won 0 games. Let's see if we can beat them this time. So, they add Dr. Madlove with Prosperity. They stake your soul into Izuna, that's for Holisu. Holisu, they have the Dark and the Fire, so they're gonna summon the Rosin. Rosin is probably gonna grab Jiaolong. Yep. Now they're gonna normal the Madlove into Vanquish Soul Start. Vanquish Soul Start is probably going to grab, yep, Caesar Values. I thought it was gonna be Heavy Burger, but if they're going to reveal, they're going to rock back to Rosin. They're probably adding Snow Devil. Yep, they are. That's because they're going to make a K9. Yep, K9 Ripper. K9 Ripper to Joko. And they're going to Joko for Izuna. And you're probably thinking, well, hey, Brit, couldn't you just stop them for 5 mana? Like you did against Yomi? Because we do have the same materials that we did against the Yomi deck. Here's the problem. Vanquish Soul K9 is way different from Yomi. Against Yomi, you want to 5 mana into Gulamel and to stop them. Against this deck, you don't want to do that. The moment you do that and they have an Izuna, you lose the game. The game is over, unless you're summoning Winda. Because Paradise Smasher is still in the game. Ripper is going to be like an extra beneficial effect. They still have a lot of different cards that can just keep going against our plays. So the best way to beat them is by doing nothing. And I know that sounds kind of cringe because Vanquish Soul K9 can build a way better Ember than what we have here at the moment. My friend Diego built me an Ember that had C104 and 2 more set cards alongside all of this. And it was really hard to beat. So we're going to deployment. They're going to chain the Rock to grab the Holisu. We reveal the Gravenol for Blazing Cartesia. With normal the Lucius, they're going to Ash that. We're going to Blazing Cartesia, and we're going to make the Artholion. So the second reason we didn't 5 mana is because of Ripper. As long as Ripper's on the board, the 5 mana is useless. So now I'm structuring the chain link in a way that it cannot get rippered. So Artholion is going to be the last card in the chain. And this is big. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 triggers. Those 5 triggers against this board. And those triggers are big. That's the end of the match. Because my opponent just didn't want to play the rest of the match for some reason. Yeah. I think it comes to no surprise, I really like Dracotail. This is my favorite deck out of the Justice Hunter decks for now. There is... I love K9 as an archetype, but let's be honest, K9 is not going to be played as an archetype, at least not until Doom of Dimensions. And I'm not the biggest fan of Vanquish Soul K9. Even though I have the ability to grab the entire deck and play the entire deck, I feel like that deck is going to be very, very, very dependent on the mirror match. One small misplay will cost you duels with that deck, and that deck also bricks a fair amount. But yeah, I hope you found this informative to your liking and understanding. I know this is quite a lengthy video, like all my Dracotail videos have been so far, but if this makes you a better player with this deck, I'm just happy it did. So my locals is happening later today. I think we are going to have Justice Hunters available. The official release is tomorrow for all stores outside of OTS stores. So whoever is still playing this format and whoever are going to look into the new decks, good luck to all of you. You might see like a live deck report of some other decks very, very soon. Until then, keep practicing and keep dueling.